All right, so the first thing is what I have decided to do, good, bad, or indifferent, is I'm going to basically give you till right before Thanksgiving to turn in any work that you've got. You know, the stuff that I've given you lately, the Friends thing and the other assignments. So just try to get that done by Thanksgiving. All right, it'll give me plenty of time to grade it over the Thanksgiving break, hopefully. I'm going to grade this weekend what people have turned in. Okay, so we're going to do this, like I said, maybe a little bit differently. I'd like you to start, I don't need that. I'd like you to please go out to your GitHub account. And out on your GitHub account, we're going to make a new repository. The name isn't that important. I mean, if you want to call it what I called it, fine. But I call mine React-e-commerce-app. So something along those lines, okay? Since we are going to create a React project by the same name, make sure you don't put any spaces in it, and React expects all of the names that you give it to be in all lowercase. And if you're going to separate names, they ask that you use the hyphen. That's why I've done it that way. So React-e-commerce-app, and create your repository. Now, a little bit later, not right now, but a little bit later, we're going to grab this stuff. But don't worry about it for right now. Don't worry about copying it over or anything. But instead, let's just minimize this. Okay? So that should get you back to probably your desktop or wherever you've been creating this stuff. Well, it's nice, Angie. I see somebody who's got a messier desktop than I do. I feel good about that. All right. So what I'd like you to do is to create a new folder in here. We're not going to do it exactly the same way we've done it, so please stay with me. And we are, again, what did I just tell you to call that? We are going to make a new folder by this name, but please, after you do that, don't do your NPX thing. So we are going to create a new folder on the desktop called React-e-commerce-app. So please create that. All right, so I've got it here. Mine still says new folder, so I'm going to change the name now. All right, so React e-commerce app, go ahead and open that up. Do not run your npx command. This is going to be the first time where what we're going to be attempting to do is this. All right, we're having our own shop. When we first start doing this, and I've got to send these to you, we're going to sell hats for the Major League Baseball hats. You're going to change that to sell whatever the heck you'd like to sell. But I went out the other night and went and did this. So this is what I'm going to send you in just a bit, an images folder. And when you look in here, this is what it has. It's got all the hats for all of the major league teams. Okay? All right. So you're going to have that. Plus, I'm going to send to you, in addition to that, a thing that's called products.js. Notice the lowercase in this. It's called products. And this is what it's going to have in it. All right. Now, just so you know, the name, the image, etc., all that stuff is cool. What eventually is going to happen is, first of all, hats are us. I made that up. Flip your lid. I made that up. All right. I don't know who the brand really is, and I don't really care for what we're doing. All right. The prices, I think I made 3 of them, 41, 39, and I mixed them up. Maybe I only made 2, but you see that. What's eventually going to happen with this count in stock is we are going to eventually create a MongoDB database. And that's going to be how many of that particular hat we have in stock. What's going to be nice about that then is that when you go to order one, if there's 25 in stock, the most you're going to be allowed to order is 25. And if for some reason it were to say out of stock, you're not going to be able to order it. Does that all make sense? All right. Now, I just literally, some of the stuff that's in here, maybe I got a little goofy, but they all say perfect for any whatever fan, but some of them, you know, like love them or hate them, the Northsiders, love them or hate them, the South. I put maybe even some editorial comments in there that I probably should. Nothing dirty, nothing bad, but as we get going, you're going to change this anyway because you're going to sell what you want to sell. All right? But for now, at least, that's what we're going to use. I just wanted you to see that. I have both these files ready for you, and I have to send them to you. All right? Okay. All right. The next thing I'd like you to do is I'd like you to come into this folder that you've got, the folder right here, all right, the React e-commerce app. I want you to make 2 more folders inside of it. The first folder we're going to make is the one we're going to work on first, and we're going to just call it what it is. We're going to call it front end. One word, all lowercase, front end. When we get done with the front end, you might have already guessed, we're going to create another folder that's going to be called back end. All right? Now, you may or may not have realized this, because if you didn't, it's because your instructor didn't do a good enough job of explaining it to you, but React is a front-end product. It is designed to create interfaces for the user, which makes it front-end. All right? Eventually, the node code, all right, that we put in, and the MongoDB code, or etc., that we put in, that's the back-end stuff. So remember, the front end is the stuff the end user sees. The back end is the stuff the programmer develops. It's all that idea, and I mentioned this to you back in the AWD1111 class, of interface versus implementation. The interface is what you show to the end user. The implementation is what happens under the hood. And if you may or may not remember, I'm not going to do it right now, but I even brought up the example where I brought up the calculator that comes in, with your operating system. And I put in a number and I hit like the square root key. And I said, that is the interface. The actual code that gives you the square root, when you hit the square root key, that's the implementation. All right? And companies pay more for the implementation than they do for the interface. Now, that's a very broad statement, and maybe it's not fair, but if I had my choice as a prospective hirer, whatever the heck that is, somebody who hires, that if I had my choice over somebody who could build a really good back end versus a really good front end, I take the back end every time. And I don't mean to at all diminish the importance of the front end, because that, let's face it, that's what's going to bring people to your site, keep people at your site, etc. But typically that's an easier skill for you to teach than the back end is. All right. Okay. Now we can go in, and I'd like you to open up your front end folder. So double click on the folder that you called front end. Now we're going to run our npx. So right mouse click, right mouse click, do your git bash here, and as always, now this will be npx create react app dot. Make sure you're in the front end when you do that. All right? So if you didn't create a front end folder, create a front end folder.
I created a front end folder, but I've never been able to open it, like git bash here from inside the folder. I've always had to do it outside on the desktop. How do
I don't know why that would happen. I think you had that problem before, didn't you, when we did something similar to this?
Yeah, I've never been able to do that, so I don't know how to. Can I open it in Visual Code and do it from there?
Yeah, you should.
Yes, you can open it up in Visual Code, and then you can bring a terminal up. You can do a view terminal. That should work. Now, some people, with some of the stuff that I've shown you, they bring up that terminal in Visual Studio Code and do everything from there. All right? And some people do and some people don't. All right? I'm just doing it the way that I'm most comfortable with. All right? So if you've done your npm create react app, and again, from the front end, just hit enter. Well, that wasn't real good, was it? npm create react app dot. Now, what did it do here? Oh, it's npx, not pnpm. Oh, my goodness. It's npx. You probably did it right. I did it wrong. So it's npx space create dash react dash app space dot. All right? And as you know, that'll take a couple minutes for that to come up. Now, what we're going to get built today, because I didn't get done as much as I wanted to, but we're going to start to get the front end done. All right? It's not something that we'll do in a day. But I'm only going to spend about an hour or so on this today, and the rest of the period will be lab, and then we'll spend 2 hours starting next week, about 2 hours a day. And again, this, as you all know, this will come up faster for some of you than others, and it's okay. We're not in any hurry here. I believe that Tuesday of next week is, I think, day 60 or something. I believe that is, or maybe that's day 61. So again, we've got the equivalent of 4 weeks. All right. All right. Again, I want to wait until everybody says you've got the happy hacking thing that comes up, etc. Okay. All right. Now, it's going to sound maybe weird. Maybe it is weird. But we're going to do 2 things from right here. The first is, we don't want our Git folder. Believe it or not, we don't want that folder. We're going to make our own in just a little bit. But for now, see, the problem is we want a Git folder eventually that's going to hold everything. This Git folder has only got our front end stuff. Does that make sense to everybody? So we are going to want to create our own in just a couple minutes. Don't worry about creating our own. We'll do it together in just a few minutes. So I'm going to find that .git folder. Don't remove the .git ignore file. All right? But just go and highlight the .git folder and then hit delete. All right? And that should remove it.
If you don't have a .git folder, don't worry about it.
You probably do. It just you don't think you do. You probably don't have your hidden file showing.
Okay.
All right?
Mine.
How do I?
You can go into view. Are you in the folder, like?
Yeah, you can do it from there.
Okay.
What is it? View
Yeah,
and
you go to like view, and then there's a checkbox called hidden items. You can check that. And
yeah, you might have to go into not view there, not inside here, but view from your desktop.
Okay.
you want to just yeah, like in the folders manager.
Let's check.
You just get.
Should I uncheck it? Or
No.
Okay.
It should be checked.
Yeah. I never see the .git, so I don't know.
Well, then see if it allows you to do it. I mean, there's always more than one way of doing the same thing. Go back to your command line, your Git command line.
Okay.
So back to here. We haven't even started this yet. So from there, see if you can type in del.git. I don't know if it'll take that or not. I've never tried to do that.
Command RM. Try RM.
Yeah, try RM.
RM.
RM for
RM.
remove.
Just
RM space .git.
no such file.
That's the same thing.
No such file. I guess we just didn't. We guess
Well, hopefully you don't have it. How's that? We'll just leave it at that for now. right? All right. So, again, we're not even going to run the program yet, but from where we are right now, if you don't have a Git, you probably don't have a Git ignore either.
I have a good ignore.
You do have a Git ignore. Okay, we want to take that Git ignore. We don't want it to be in the front end folder. We want to move it up. There's a lot of different ways that you can do this. You know whatever you're comfortable with, but I'm going to click on that to highlight it. I'm going to right mouse click and I'm going to choose cut, and then I'm going to move up and put it right here. So I'm going to paste. So in other words, I now have back end, I have front end, and I have .git ignore. Those are all under my React-ecommerce-app. So why did we do what we just did? Again, for those of us who have a .git folder, that right now, that .git folder is supposed to be used for the entire project, and it's only in the front end. All right, so it's not servicing everything we want it to service, for lack of better words. All right. Now we're going to make a couple changes to .git ignore. Not right now. It's totally fine the way it is. All right. So we should, if you haven't already done so, we should be able to now bring this thing up in code. Okay. Now there's a couple things that I wanted to show you here, just because I don't want you to get confused. All right. So I want to show you some extensions that you might choose that you want to put in. You might not choose that you want to put in. All right. So the first one that I'm going to show you, so remember to get extensions, it's about halfway down. It's this, it looks like building blocks or whatever. I'm going to click on that for extensions. Okay. And that brings us right here. And the first one that I'm going to do is I'm just going to type in here ES7, like that. And when you do that, what you'll notice is the first one that comes up, at least on mine, and it should be on yours, is ES7 React / Redux, etc. And there's a bunch of other stuff there. All right? So that's the one that we're going to install. Now, let me tell you first, you don't have to install it, but there are some shortcuts and some snippets in there that you might find that make it easier for you to use. All right? So I'm just going to go right here and I'm just going to click on the install. You know, that's it. So that one's done. And again, if you don't want it in there, then don't install it. Or if you decide you're not using it, then just uninstall it. All right, so that's the first one. Now, you probably already know this, but with some of this stuff, not all of them, but there may be an occasion where you are bringing something in like this, and it says you have to restart Visual Studio Code. Then just click to restart it. Literally, it's like that. It doesn't take any time whatsoever. All right, another one that I've used off and on, but I think it's going to help with this program. It's called Bracket Pair Colorizer. Now, fortunately or unfortunately, there's two versions of it. All right, so you'll notice that's version 1.0.61, and this is version 0.2.1. They both have several million installs. All right, not because of the fact that it's got more, but because of the fact that it's newer, I'm going to choose the first one. All right, so I'm going to again just click install. Now that one is installed. Now what that is going to do is it's going to make sure that if we've got a bunch of different curlies, you know, we got this within this within this, each one will have a different color on it. Now it only has 3 or 4 colors, so it'll repeat after a while, just so you know that. So that's 2 of them. All right, another one that we may or may not end up using in here, I don't know, but there's one that's called the auto rename tag. All right, and notice what it says, auto rename paired HTML, XML tags. Let me tell you why that one's important. All right, let's assume that we've got a div tag. You know what a div tag looks like, and you know what a div tag is used for. But now we decide that what we want to do is we don't really want that to be a div tag. We want that to be a paragraph tag. If you change the top div to a p tag, it'll automatically change the bottom one. See what I'm saying? So it keeps them lockstep all of the time. So I'm going to install that as well. And again, you can choose to install or not install any of these as you see fit. The other one, and I mentioned this to you before, but this one you may very well have installed already, but it's Prettier. All right? Literally, it's the first one that comes up, and you'll notice I've already got it in here. If you don't have it installed, I'd recommend that you install it. If you already have it installed, great. Not a problem. All right? Okay. Next. You guys should be able to hit your F1 key right now, your function F1 key. That doesn't work for me because of using that along with Camtasia. It doesn't handle F1. F1 means something else in Camtasia. Since that's being run right now, it won't let me do that. So I'm going to do the other one, which is Control plus Shift plus P. Now that's probably what yours looks like right now. All right, and again, your coloring, you may have a dark background. None of that stuff matters. All right. Again, I mentioned this one to you before, but this has got that format option. All right. So you can always, you can set that up if you want. All right. And there are a bunch of other settings that are in here as well. All right. So I'm going to go in here to File, Preferences, and I'm going to go to Settings. File, Preferences, Settings. All right. Now, there's all sorts of stuff in here. The first thing I'm going to change, you don't have to do this, but I'm going to change my font size just to make it a little bigger for you guys. All right? Because sometimes, what we're doing gets kind of hard to read. So I'm just going to make it 18. You don't have to do that. If you're happy with the size of your font, by all means, leave it there. All right? You'll notice it's got a default font family. I'm just going to leave that. I think it's Gonzalez, Courier, New, and Monospace. All right? We may end up doing some work in here where we have got this within this, within this, within this, etc. So I'm going to change my tab size from 4 to 2. All right? Again, I'm just showing you the stuff that I'm changing. All right? Okay, so I'm going to start working my way down in here. Because there's a lot of stuff that's in here. All right? And the next one that I changed was there are actually some settings. You can see that it's alphabetized. So I'm going to kind of go down quite a bit here, and I'm going to find font if there should be, in fact, I should just search for it. I'm going to search for Prettier. All right. Okay. Now, there's a bunch of stuff that's in here for Prettier. I mean, notice there's a heck of a lot of stuff that's in here. All right. And let's see. I'm going to check this one that says use single quotes. You don't have to do this. I'm just telling you what I am doing here. All right? The print width, I'll leave it 80. I thought it had a tab width in here. Yeah, that probably was reset to 2 before. All right? The other thing, you may or may not have noticed this already, but if that format save that I showed you before, it's always putting that semicolon in there. All right, well, Prettier has a thing in here for Prettier, semicolon. See that? Whether or not to add a semicolon at the end of each line. So I searched up here for Prettier, semicolon. I don't want to have all those semicolons put in there for me. So I'm going to uncheck that one. Does that make sense to everybody? Does every option I've shown you, do they all make sense? All right. And again, if you say, well, I don't want to do any of that stuff, you don't have to. It's not that it's that big a thing. I'm just trying to show you where I'm coming from in here. All right. So I'm going to close this now, and I'm going to close this, and I'm going to go back into here. All right? Now, I'm going to start doing some of the cleanup work that we normally do in here. All right, such as, I'm going to go to back end. All right, I'm sorry, go to front end, and I'm going to open up under public. I'm going to open up my index.html file. All right, and again, this is just a personal thing with me. You don't have to do it. I'm going to remove all the extraneous comments that are in here. Which knocks the file size way down to only about 20 lines. All right, don't need that. I don't know why I left that in there, but I did. All right, and, you know, the title right now is React App. I'm just going to put React E-Commerce App. You can put in any title you'd like to put in. All right, so I just changed that right there. All right, there's going to be more stuff that we're going to have to worry about later, but for right now, that should be okay. And I want you, again, to be comfortable with the fact that basically that's our whole body. And again, the idea behind creating one of these spas or single page apps is we're going to be constantly replacing what's in there. All right, so I'm going to do a file save. All right, and I'm going to close that. Now, you've seen some of my foibles, so to speak, going in and trying to remove stuff from here. I've removed the wrong thing, etc. So when I remove files, which is what I'm about to do, I like to actually go back into here and remove them. If you're comfortable removing stuff right from Visual Studio Code, then do it that way. All right? But I'm going to come in here and I'm going to open up the source folder. All right? Now, we are going to do a combination in here when we actually go in and start writing a little bit of CSS, etc. We're going to do a combination of using different types of Bootstrap, all right, and our own CSS. Why am I telling you that? Because right now, we don't need app.css, we don't need app.test.js, we don't need this logo, we don't need this report web vitals, we don't need this setup tests. Now, I realize, especially for you, Christopher, that's hard for you to see. But the bottom line is the only thing that should not be highlighted right now is app.js, index.js, and index.css. All right? Everything else we don't need. So with all those highlighted, I'm just going to hit the delete key. So they're all gone. All right? And finally, in here is the last thing for this setup, is I'm going to open up. There's two things, but first I'm going to open up the index.css file. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is come in here and I'm going to open up the index.css file, which again is under source. There it is. I don't want, this is all the default boilerplate stuff they give us. I don't want any of that. We're going to write our own. As we need to, we'll put our own stuff in here. So I'm going to put that in, and I'm just, right now, I just came in, put it in, and now I can close that. Make sure you save, and then close that. All right. Then I'm going to go back to index.js here. And make sure with yours, again, we don't have this report vitals anymore, so you can get rid of that. And we can get rid of all of this stuff that's right here. Does that make sense to everybody? Again, we're just doing some cleanup work right now. So this slimmed down version is what your index.js should look like. We're going to start making changes to some of this stuff pretty quickly. All right, so again, I'm going to save here. So I saved, I'm going to close that, and now I'm going to open up app.js. All right, well, hopefully you already can tell we don't need those first two lines anymore because we don't have those files. So app.js is the file we just opened, and we're going to get rid of these two lines right here. We don't need them, I guess, even the blank line. We'll be putting other stuff in there in just a bit. All right? But, and this is for the first time we're doing it like this, remove everything inside of the parentheses, even the div. I know you're going to get an error. We'll fix it in just a moment. So I want your app.js for right now to just look like this. Now, you may or may not remember, but one of the things I mentioned to you earlier this week or late last week was you can put in tags like that. In other words, this is what's typically, I don't know, I've heard it called the blank tag and some other things too. But what it's saying is we don't want what we're about to do to be put in a div. All right, sometimes it's called an empty tag, etc. But we removed under our app.js everything between the return, everything that was there. And we're going to replace it with this. And for now, we'll just put in an h1 tag. And you can say really anything you want. I'm just going to say MERN e-commerce app. I mean, it should be something like that. All right? It doesn't have to be that if you don't want it to be that, but it should be something similar to that. All right. Has everybody now been able to move this git ignore file? So it is that git ignore file is not under the front end or the back end. It's an entity into and of itself, and you can always tell by closing everything. And when they're all closed like this, it should show that one right there. All right, so open that file up, please. We're going to make two changes. They won't make much sense right now. They will make more sense, but we're changing them now for stuff we're going to do later. All right, I want you to take is this your line 4? Right here, is this everybody's line 4? All right, we're going to replicate that. So in other words, I'm just going to copy it, and then at the end of it, I'm going to put a slash. So I made a new line 5, which is just like line 4, except I put a slash in there. All right? So that's the first thing. And the other thing is go down about line 16 or 17 where it's got this miscellaneous here. And you've got a .env local and a bunch of other .envs. Everybody see that? We're eventually going to make our own .env file. So please add this line of code in there. Just that one line. The other ones should be in there already. Okay? And again, if that doesn't make a lot of sense now, it'll make more sense later, or at least I hope it'll make more sense later. All right? Okay. And you can do a file save in here, and we can close this. I'll leave the app.js open, but I want to make sure I've saved it. All right? Now, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back to here. And now for right now, I don't want to be, let me clear that. I don't want to be in my front end. In other words, I want to be under the main part of this. Okay? So, I'm just going to do a cd to ... which means go up one level. So yours should say basically now the same thing. Whatever you've got /desktop, if you're on the desktop, /react-ecommerce-app. All right. Now, if I do an ls, which means just list of files, you don't have to do this. But it should show three things. It should show the front end folder, it should show the back end folder, and it should show the .gitignore file. And since it's a dot file, I think I might have to say, what is it, ls -a or something like that. There. See that? All right. Now we're going to go back in, and we're going to kind of do it the way we used to do it. So let me clear this. So I'm going to do a git init, and you all know what that does. That creates that .git folder for you. All right, so it initialized the empty repository. All right, and for right now, just so we've got something out there, let's do a git add dot. You might get a lot of the same stuff I'm getting, and you might not. All it's telling it is it's replacing LFs, which are line feeds, with CRLFs, which are carriage return line feeds. It's no biggie. It has to do with the incompatibility between Windows and Linux, because you're actually running Linux or Unix commands in here.
So we did a add what? Right there?
We did a git add dot. Git space add space dots, and then hit enter. And you might notice it's taking a little longer than usual, but remember, we have not done this in a React project. And there's a lot of files that have been created for us, and some of them are quite lengthy files. Probably it's going through and it's grabbing a lot of the stuff in your node modules folder. So it's got to fix all those. So it may take a minute or two. So it's 12:48. I'm going to go till about 1:15 or so, and then that'll be it for the day. We'll get done what we can get done in that amount of time. All right, mine came back. Yours should be coming back soon. It's not back yet. It should be coming back soon. When it does, I'm going to clear. You don't have to clear, but I'm going to clear. Now, if you please look up on the screen here, everybody. Now, I do want, I care about that line right there. Remember that? That's what sets up our origin. Okay? So I'm going to highlight that line. I'm going to right mouse click and I'm going to choose copy. Then I'm going to jump back into here and I'm going to paste it in and hit enter. If you just get back your prompt, it worked. Okay? And if you want to double check it, then you just say git space remote space -v. And it should have that then. It should have your new GitHub repository in it. Looks like, at least with yours. Anybody else, is your stuff still going? Okay, then I like I said, we're not in any hurry here. So what we want to eventually have is our own e-commerce store that will have on the front end, we'll be using a React front end and a MongoDB/Node.js backend. All right? And then, what I'm going to ask is that you change that, just because, again, I don't know if this will happen, but I really would rather not have it in the situation where 2 or 3 of you are possibly competing for the same job and your projects look the same. I just don't think that looks very professional. That's the reason that I've said, I've asked you to sell something else, etc. All right. And if that really bugs you, and you say, no, but I just want to do it the way you've done it, then don't sell Major League Baseball hats like I have. Sell National Football League hats, National Hockey League hats, National Basketball Association hats, etc. Professional soccer hats. It doesn't matter. The rest of you are still spinning too? Or did your prompt come back? You got your prompt back? Did your prompt back?
Mine's back.
Okay.
It just keeps going.
So hopefully then for the rest of you, you were able to go in and, like I said, go out to the github.com site and grab that line, copy it in, hit enter, and if you want to double check to make sure it's set, then that's fine. That actually does seem almost abnormally long.
It does. Because it started at the same time everybody else did.
Is it still grabbing stuff? Can you see it from node modules? Or can't you tell?
No, it's still in the modules. Let me see it.
All right. Now, for the rest of you, and don't worry, we'll wait, but for the rest of you, you can now go back to here and grab this one, this line, or just type it in, and you know better than I do whether it's master or whether it's main. I have to use master for mine. Some of the rest of you might use master, some of you might use main. All right? But I'm going to change mine. And then after you have done that, after you've done that, go back to here, go back to your GitHub page, which should look like this. And after you've pushed it, refresh, and you should see your changes. Now, don't push it yet, because what do we have to do yet? Can somebody tell me? What Git command didn't we run yet?
Oh,
The comment,
What?
the comment.
Yeah, but what is that command?
Commit.
It's commit. So you can come in here before you run that command, come in here and you can say git space commit space -m, and then let's just call it something like, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to put in the date, so 11/12/2021, 11/12/2021, and I'm going to say initial React e-commerce project setup. Something like that. And again, if you don't like what I put your own stuff in there. That's totally fine. All right? But that'll do the commit, and then you can run the command to push. All right? So again, go back to your GitHub page and grab that command, your git remote add command.
I did.
Okay. Then it's not letting you paste it in. Can you type? Try doing just do a control C. All right, try doing a control break. Well, you may have to literally close that and reopen it. Not the whole project, just, well, you don't even need your project up for this. Well, let you type now.
I think so.
Again, you can do your git space remote space -v if you want to double check and make sure it worked. All right, then we've done, you can do the git commit -m, give it whatever message you want to give it. And enter. and again, when I do this, it's git, whoops, try it again, git space push space minus u space origin space master. Now, one thing I never told you, just so you know, after you push this once, you should only have to type in git push. The reason I have you keep typing stuff is sometimes for me it locks my computer up. That's why it's never done that when I've typed in everything, but a couple times when I've just typed in git push, but you've already told it what the origin is. So you really shouldn't have to put that in there every time. It doesn't hurt anything to do that. All right, so enter. Great. It has never asked me to sign in before, and I have no clue what my...
I've been having trouble with that.
Oh, I know why it is, because I cleared my cookies out, because I was showing the first year people how to clear cookies. Well, that'll be interesting. Well, I'm going to do this, which is going to give me an error, but I'm going to have to get it later. So username for GitHub. Well, maybe it'll just take that. But I don't think it will. Nope. All right, I'll have to go back and take a look at it. I think I can retrieve that password, so I'm not going to worry about it right now. So I'm just going to cancel that. And again, that's what it's doing, is it's asking me for that. All right, so again, if you've done all that, you're further ahead than I am. You should then be able to go back to here and refresh, and it should show your changes. Okay? All right. And if it's still working, don't worry about it. It's take a couple minutes, but it's fine. All right. Okay. Then let's go do this. From inside here, I think it's easiest to do it from in here. But from inside, in our front end folder, like we've done before, under front end, you know what we have. We've got node modules, which we don't need. I mean, we're not going to do anything with it. Public, which we're not going to do any more with it. And we've got source. Inside of source, we've got app.js, we've got index.js, and we've got index.css, right? We're going to add a new folder. So inside of source, click on source, right mouse click, and choose new folder. We're going to do this the same way we did it before. In other words, we're going to create a folder that's called components. All right? We're going to end up doing it. Some of the stuff that we do will look very similar to what we've done before. Some of the stuff we're going to do is going to look different than what we've done before. Totally fine. All right, so I've got this new components folder in here. Make sure it's under source like this. The reason I'm telling you that is this morning I thought mine was, and I wasn't really paying attention, and it wasn't. And when I started pathing stuff, etc., nothing was working, and I couldn't figure out why. And that was why. All right, so we're going to come in here, and under your components folder, we're going to create a new file. So under components, we're going to create a new file. And the first one we're going to create is going to be header.js with a capital H. All right. Now, if you loaded those, I'm going to show you this twice. Don't type, okay? Don't type anything. I'm going to show you something. I'm going to remove what I'm typing in just a second. So don't type in this. So I'm going to put in here import React from React. Like I said, don't worry about it. So, and I'm going to say const header equal, and in here I'm just going to say return, and for now I'm just going to leave it. Like I said, you don't have to worry about typing this. All right, and then I'm just going to come in the bottom and type in export default header. You've all seen this before. Everybody has. Well, I'm going to remove this. Now, with what I'm about to do, I'm assuming that when I showed you those extensions, that you downloaded the first one or installed the first one, that ES7 thing. If you didn't, then just wait till I'm done and just type it in. Otherwise, if you did, from right here, type in, I don't know if it'll, E. Don't worry about hitting anything yet. That means what we want is we want React with functions, React with arrow functions. All right, so if you've got RAFCE, hit the tab key and you see what we have. That's why you put in those extensions. Now, if you say, I could give a damn, then get rid of it and type it in manually. It doesn't matter. But I'm just trying to show you, a few of the built-in things. All right? So, in here, where we've got our return, we don't even want this div. You know what? This is a header, right? So we're going to put in here header tags. And then for now, I'm just going to put in, this is my header. We're going to change it, so don't worry about it. This is my header. Okay? You can put anything you want because you're going to remove it in a few minutes. And I'm going to do a Control-S to save. And you'll notice that when I did the Control-S, at least it put it all on the same line. I don't like that, but it's okay. All right? And if yours is on multiple lines, it doesn't matter one way or the other. All right? So I've done my save on that, and for now at least, I'm going to close it. Now that I've created a header, I'm going to create a footer. So again, I'm going to right mouse click, make sure you're in components, right mouse click, new file, and we want footer with a capital F.js. All right, and again, I'm going to put in exactly what I put in before, RAFCE, and hit tab. All right, and it's going to be pretty much the same as what we just did, except this is going to say footer, and this is my footer. All right, and I'm going to save, and again, it put it all on one line when I did that because of my auto save that I've got set up. All right. Now, as of right now, our program doesn't know that these two files even exist. We're going to make sure that they know that they exist right now. So there's a couple things we have to do. I'm going to close my footer for now, and I want the app.js to be open. So please open up your app.js. And let's put a little bit of space at the top because we have to import our header and our footer. So I'm going to import header from ... Notice when I do the ... well, what does it do? It shows me source. How about when I just do a ... See that? You see the difference between the two? So when I did this originally, when I did ... that meant go up a level. When I just do a ... it means on the level I'm at. Well, I want components, right? Because that's where I put it. So I'm going to choose components here, / header, and then do the same thing for your footer, please. You could just repeat the line. You could copy it and make the changes. It doesn't really matter. Whatever you're most comfortable doing is what you should be doing. All right. So we have now imported our header and our footer. All right. And what we're going to do is right up above this H1, well, we're going to come in here and that's where we're going to put in the header. And right below the H1, that's where we're going to put it. That's where we're going to put in the footer. Now, we're not done yet, but there's one more thing that we're going to do first. I'm asking you this question. Rack your brains a little bit and think. When we were back in the days of AWD1111 and you started to learn about the different components, you had your header on the top and you had your footer on the bottom. And in between the two, you had the content section, right? Do you remember the name of the tag? It's not mandatory that you typically used for that? No. No, I'm yes. So we're going to take this H1 here and we're going to put it inside of a main. Oops. Like that. All right, and again, when I save, there, it fixed it with the autosave. So that's what that should look like right now. Questions on anything we've done? All right, so I'm going to do a file save, and for the first time, and I'm hoping and praying I'm not going to get any errors, and if I do, that they're real minor. But I'm going to come back to here, and from my React app, all right, now, if we do an npm start now, it's not going to recognize anything. So I'm going to do a cd to front end, and now I'm going to do my npm start. And we'll see if I get any errors or not. Is that what you all got? It'll take a second to come up, I get that. All right, is this what everybody got?
Yeah, I understood.
Okay.
I'm just going on my previous board.
So the point is, this is rendering what we told it to render inside of app.js. We told it to put the header in. That's got, this is my header. We told it to put the footer in. That's got, this is my footer. And we had that h1 tag in there. All right? Now, like I said, hopefully at least, that makes sense. All right? Now, what we're going to end up doing is we are going to end up, eventually, not right now, but eventually we're going to end up using React Bootstrap. All right? And why? Because it's got some built-in stuff, and it's typically easier to use than the regular Bootstrap is to bring that into a project. What I'd like you to do right now is I'd like you to go out to here. I'm going to make this big so you can see it. So I would like you, please, to go out to, oops, try it again, 72. I'd like you to go out to bootswatch.com, just like that. All right, if it comes up and it says free themes for Bootstrap, that's what we want. All right, now we're using a theme. We probably could have even went out to that site we used for the blog and found something out there. Right, I just use this. I've used this with projects before. All right, so I've already got it up here. So here's Bootswatch. And if you look, if you start arrowing down a ways, you're going to find a bunch of, these are a bunch of free different themes that you can use. All right, now I started to go through them, and I've used Lumen before, I've used Lux before. Some people like those. Then I looked through and I thought, well, in honor of my sister, who about 6 months ago got herself a St. Bernard puppy, that's now 100 pounds, and his name is Yeti. So I chose Yeti. You don't have to choose that one. Now, we don't want to, we don't need to preview it. You can if you want to, but I'm just going to click where it says download, and the only file we want is the first one. That is bootstrap.min.css. So just click on that, and it'll save it to where your stuff gets saved, the downloads folder or wherever. With me, it's in my downloads folder. All right? It should not take very long at all to be able to do this. All right? Now, I'm going to right mouse click on that file, and I'm going to choose Show in Folder. And there it is. All right? Then I want you to take that file, I want you to cut it, and then back on your desktop, all right, to me, like I said, that's the easiest way to do it. Under your front end and under your source, you should have your index.css file there, right? We want to literally put it right in there. So I'm going to right mouse click on here and choose paste. So I've stuck it under front end source. All right. Now, we're going to finish up what I've got on this page here, and then we will call it a period, all right? Sorry, it's taking a little longer than I thought, but that's okay. All right. So, the next thing that we want to do, and first of all, always good to know, okay, it says I haven't broken anything, okay? So when I look here, it's still not using anything. It's probably going to look exactly the same as it looked before. So if I go back to just, my localhost :3000, It's not going to look any different than it did before. We haven't actually put in that theme, all right? But what I'd like us to do is let's leave the program up and running. So let's go in and let's open up another instance of the terminal. So again, in here and inside of your front end, again, right mouse click and choose, do another git bash here, please. And we're going to bring in React Bootstrap. All right, so that'll be an npm I React hyphen Bootstrap, like that. Make sure you're in your front end folder. We want to put it in the right place. All right. And hit enter. And again, it should take just a matter of seconds when you do that. You will have more than 2 hours to work on lab today, all right? There's just, like I said, it's taken a little bit longer with some of the machines and whatever. Hey, that's to be expected anyway, and I'm going to wait for Gabriel too, so.
Mr. Scott, did you see it put our Bootstrap?
So I'm just going to keep it right where it is. All right, so we just went in and we just did an npm I React-Bootstrap, right? Everybody's got that. Good. If you don't have it, put it in.
No,
You do have it.
I put
Okay.
in for one.
Okay, good. All right, then I want you to please go back in Visual Studio Code, go back into your app.js. The reason that we needed to do that is we're going to start bringing some stuff in. You may or may not remember, but basically when you work with Bootstrap, just about everything that you do is prefaced around the idea of using a container. So we're going to import container from React Bootstrap. All right, now it'll be gray because we haven't used it yet, but we're going to in just a couple minutes. All right, and I'm taking for granted everybody was able to do that. All right, now we're going to make a change or two to our header.js and to our footer.js. So come into your header.js right here. So open up your header.js file. I don't even think I changed that one. I think it was just the footer that I changed, but we'll see. Just a sec. Got that. Did all that. I'll tell you what, we won't do anything for header.js right now. Just open up your footer.js if you would, please. All right, which currently looks like this. All right. Well, that's a stupid footer, okay? Because what it says is, this is my footer. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So let's actually create a footer here. All right, so what we're going to have here is return, and I'm going to try doing it like this and see if it'll allow me to put it on multiple lines, but we'll find out. So return, it doesn't want it there, okay. All right, so under our footer, and again, this is totally up to you. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a container. All right, and under that container, well, we're going to get an error because we have to import that first. So let's import just like we just did. So import container from React Bootstrap. Maybe you've already done it. All right, because it doesn't recognize or realize what container is. All right, so we're returning. We've got container, and under our container, we're going to add a row, and under our row, we're going to add a column. All right, and again, what you put here is up to you. I'm going to put in this. I'm going to say class name. Let me close that so I got a little more room. Good. So class name equals, and I'm going to put, I want it centered, so I'm going to put in a text center. That's first class. I want a little bit of padding all the way around it, so I'm going to put a PY3, and that should be good. And I'm going to say created by, don't put my name. All right, so something like this. And again, if you don't like exactly what I put in there, again, change it to whatever you want. All right, everybody has that, correct? All right, save this. Should be able to close. All right. And in our app.js, where we've got this main, all right, everything in here is okay, except what we want to do in main is we want this whole thing, because we're going to put more in there than just that H1, so we want that to be in its own container as well. So you get an error when you do this because it doesn't have the closing tag, so it should look like that, and that should fix any errors that you have. Everybody caught up?
I am, except for I have an error on my footer. It says row is not defined. I don't know if I typed it. Yeah, the opening and closing one.
What does it say when you put your
It
mouse?
says row is not defined, but it shouldn't. You have the same thing?
Check your import for React Bootstrap.
Oh, okay. Oh, wait a minute. No, I got that. Do I need another import there?
No.
Okay.
So what is this? This is the footer.
Footer, yeah.
Also, in the container, put in column, or what, comma, row, comma.
Shouldn't have to do that, because you shouldn't have to put in row and column here. And try that and see if that fixes it.
Okay.
So just put in comma. It's up on the screen there. So if that fixed it, good. Okay.
Thanks.
Because containers are composed of rows and columns, so you really shouldn't have had to do that. But if you did and it worked, hey, more power to you.
Now, so they have unreachable code. Is that?
No, not yet. It fixed
If
it.
you've got unreachable code, it's probably the order in which you're putting these. Double check and make sure. Because like if you've got the ending row tag outside of the container, something like that, that'll break it.
I deleted something and I put it back in. Alright, I fixed it.
All right, so everybody is cool now? All right, so let's do a file save, and we should be able to close the footer, I believe. All right, we'll find out in just a second. All right. All right, now let's go into, we're going to add just a very little bit, but I want to go into the index.css file. We don't want to play with this file. First of all, it's been minimized, bootstrap.min.css, but it actually is legal that if you would have used the one that was unzipped, you could go in and make changes in there. The recommendation is that you don't do that ever, because it's a system file. That if you want to overwrite something, you write your own stuff and you put it underneath that when you're listing all of your different files. So I'm going to open up index.css. We're going to literally just put in 2 or 3 lines here. So I'm going to say main, min height. We're going to set it to 80 VH, which is our view height. All right. And just save that. Okay? All right, we're going to do one or two more things and we're finished for the day. Now, unfortunately, one of the things that we do is going to take just a little bit of time because we're going to grab some stuff in here. So right now, we got to fix this because this is very stupid for a header. So we're going to fix that right now. And in order to fix that, what we want in our header, amongst other things, is we'll want a nav bar in there. Does that make sense? Now, we're not going to go out and use the nav bar from Git Bootstrap because we want the one from React Bootstrap. All right? So I've got to give you the URL for that, which I'm going to do right now. It's notbootswatch.com. All right. So you have to go to React-Bootstrap. Now I'm going to keep typing. It's going to wrap. Did you all hear me? But I want it to be nice and big so everybody can see it. This is all on one line. Put that in your address bar. reactbootstrap.github.io/components. All right, we'll fix that in just a second. /navbar. All right, let me move this down so everybody can see it. All right, I'll make it a little smaller so everybody can. So go to there. And it's Bootstrap, not Bootstrap. So react-bootstrap.github.io/components/navbar. All right? And I'm going to grab that. Has everybody got that? I'm going to grab it myself here, copy it to the clipboard, and put it in here. Close a couple of these because I got way too much junk open here. All right. That's where you should be. Okay? We actually want to grab all of the code that's in here. So either highlight all of it and copy or just click the copy button over here. Whatever's easiest for you to do. I'm just going to click that copy button. All right? Then I'm going to go and I'm going to go back into my header.js file. And I'm going to hit enter here and here. And where I've got this as my header, I don't want that there anymore. I want to totally replace that with what I just copied in. And I'm going to save. Now, it'll auto-format it for me if you've got the auto-formatting set up. All right? But I will tell you that if we run this now, it's going to look kind of ugly. So we're going to make a couple changes in here. Everybody hear me? We're going to make a couple changes in here. All right. And I've got them written down so I didn't, hopefully, miss any. All right. First thing is, what we're trying to do, if you look up on the screen here, is we're trying to make something that looks like this. Does that make sense to everybody? We're trying to make this. We don't need any drop down for what we're doing. All right? So we don't need this thing. We don't need it at all. We're only going to have two links here. One that's going to say cart, that's going to show our shopping cart eventually, and one that's going to say login, which is going to allow us to log in eventually. So we're going to remove this, and rather than React Bootstrap, we're just going to put in the tagline for the company that we're working for. Does all that make sense to everybody? All right, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to find this drop down, which for me starts on line 14 here, and I'm going to go and highlight from line 14 down to line 26. Why? Because that's the whole thing that says drop down. See that? So that's the first thing. I don't want that anymore. So it's now gone. So that's the first thing. The order in which we do these operations that we're doing now doesn't really matter very much. All right. So that was the first thing. Second thing, it's going to look much better if instead of making our background light, we make it dark. Now, if you didn't want it dark, you could use primary or one of the other ones later. Let's just keep it that way. Now, what that's going to do, maybe you've done this before. That's going to take our text and we won't be able to see it now. All right? But a way of getting around that is you can say variant equal dark. All right? Now, after it says here expand equal large, and again, notice you can put these in double quotes or single quotes. You all know that. by now. All right, after where it says expand equal large, I'm going to add on to that. I'm going to add on to that collapse on select. All right. So this right now, this is what our brand name is, which isn't a real good brand name. All right, we could call it literally whatever we wanted to, but for now I'm just going to call it what it is. I'm just going to say e-commerce store. So this is what we're trying to sell. So I could call it MLB hats. I could call it anything. It really and truly does not, would not matter. All right. Now, here it says pound home. We don't want that. See this? We just want a / there. Just a /. All right. Okay, about 2 or 3 more things and we're finished. All right. Where we've got this here and it says ME Auto, we're going to change it to ML Auto. And finally, we don't want these. We want this one to say /cart, and the text should be cart. And we want this one to say /login, and it should go to login and save. Now I'm going to look here, and this doesn't look good, but I got something like this before with all this stuff saying that it wasn't defined. All right. But then when I went back and I saved it again, and I went and ran it and looked at it, it worked. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to stop my run, and I'm going to start my run again. And we'll see if I still get all those, because I got them before, and boom, they just, after a while, they just went away. All right? Now, if it doesn't, we're going to get it fixed next time. This is the same problem, exactly the same thing I had before. It said this stuff wasn't defined. So what does that mean? Well, when we look, it's inside of header. So a natural place to go then would be to go back to our header.js file, and let's see what is and what is not defined at the top there. So there's header.js, and all we're importing is React. So I'm going to change this to import. All right, and let's put in container, nav. I'm looking for the ones that here that it says that I don't have. Where was that? Well, I'll leave it. I'll start with those. I think there was nav, and I think there was nav bar. All right, so I'm going to try those, and I'm going to put from React Bootstrap. Now I didn't have to do this before. When I saved it a couple times, it just worked. But you may or may not have to do this. So I'm going to put in that. Then I'm going to jump back into here, and this I can exit from. So with what I've got running right here, notice it's back to compile successfully. All right. So what does that mean? Well, that isn't the way I want it to look, but it's there at least. All right. Notice I now have a footer, and even though the header doesn't look right, we'll fix that next time. We've got e-commerce store, and I even can tell you what the problem with that is. It's for some reason it's hyperlinking that. I don't want it to, but we'll fix that. What we want to have happen is we want this up here should be black. All right? And when you make it big like this, you're going to get the hamburger menu over here, and when you click on the hamburger menu, it's going to show cart, and it's going to show login. When you make it smaller like this, when you get it down to 100% like that, again, it should be black. All right? And all it is for whatever reason, the order in which I did these steps was wrong. We'll fix it next time. All right? But let's just stop it right here because it's after 1:30, and I told you I was going to give you time today. So let's do this. Everybody, please. Won't work for me, but it'll work for all of you. And that is, back from here, I can stop the program run. All right? And you can do another git add dot. Now, before you do that, what's the problem? We're at the front end. We don't want to be at the front end, right? We want to our git is in our main thing, so I want to do a cd dot dot, then a git add dot, all right, and hit enter. And again, I don't know how long it's going to take. Angie might be here till tomorrow. I don't know, all right?
Okay, when I
It
did,
should not take nearly as long as it did before, all right? These is just the stuff we've changed since your last commit. So we did a git space add space dot, all right? All right, so now once you've got that, I'm going to do my git space commit space minus m space, all right? And I'm just going to, again, put in today's date, 11/12/2021, and you can put whatever you want, but I'm going to put update number 2, starting on header and footer. Something like that. Again, what you put is totally up to you. All right? And once you have that, just hit enter. Again, mine came back quickly. Yours might not come back as quickly. And again, see now if you can do just a git push and if it works without, your minus u and your origin, etc. Just see if a git push, because it should work. And then go back and take a look on your GitHub accounts. Go back and take a look and make sure that you've got both of them in there once you refresh. You should. All right? Questions? Seemed like that was enough for today anyway. All right? Again, I'm going to have to go back and try to remember my GitHub password. So I will do that. Please take a break. And again, the rest of the period,